I had already decided before the toast that I would leave early. Not dramatically, just quietly, the way I usually did when things tilted in that familiar direction. I was sitting at the corner of the dining table, the place that had somehow become mine over the years, close enough to help, far enough to be overlooked. My mother had asked me to pick up the wine on the way over. My father had reminded me, half joking, half not, that the cable bill was still in my name. My brother had texted earlier asking if I could spot him until next month. Nothing unusual, just the usual arrangement we never named. When my brother stood up with his class, everyone turned toward him. He liked moments like this. He liked having the floor. I watched my parents' faces soften in anticipation, already proud of whatever version of him they were about to applaud. He smiled first, then he spoke. "Here's to family," he said. Then he paused, letting the room lean in. "Except for Jake, the failure who thinks money makes him worth something." The laughter came fast, not explosive, comfortable. My mother covered her mouth like it was all too much fun. My father shook his head, smiling down at his plate. Someone muttered, "Oh, come on," in a way that encouraged him, not stopped him. I didn't feel embarrassed. That surprised me. What I felt was something quieter, like a shelf finally giving way after years of wait. I thought of the mortgage payment I'd made when my parents were short, the car repair I'd covered for my brother without asking for it back, the subscription accounts, the insurance, the utilities that lived under my name because my credit was better suited for it. I thought of how often generosity had been mistaken for availability. I stood up too. I didn't raise my voice, I didn't smile. "To the failure," I said, lifting my glass just enough to be seen. "Who just stopped paying for everything you own?" The laughter stopped in a way laughter rarely does. It didn't trail off, it snapped. My brother's smile froze, still stretched across his face like it didn't know where to go. My mother's hand stayed suspended near her mouth. My father finally looked up at me, really looked, like he was trying to recognize a stranger who sounded familiar. I took a sip. It tasted the same as before. Then I sat back down. No one said anything else about it that night. Conversation restarted carefully, like someone testing ice with their foot. I stayed another 15 minutes, long enough not to make a point of leaving, then said I was tired. My mother told me to drive safe. My brother didn't look at me. I didn't announce anything afterward. That was important to me. I didn't send messages or explanations. I didn't list what I'd been paying for or why I wouldn't anymore. I just changed things back to what they should have been a long time ago. Accounts were transferred. Automatic payments were canceled. Names were removed. The boundaries were put in place not with speeches, but with paperwork. The first call came 3 days later. It was my brother. He didn't mention the toast. He didn't mention the dinner. He asked casually at first if something was wrong with the internet. Then less casually if I'd touched the car insurance. Then finally why the bank was asking him questions he didn't know how to answer. I told him I wasn't covering things anymore. There was a pause, then a laugh that tried and failed to sound the same as before. "You're serious?" "Yes." "Why would you do that?" I thought about that question longer than I needed to. Not because I didn't know the answer, but because I didn't owe it. "I think it's time you handled your own life," I said. He called me petty, ungrateful. He said family doesn't keep score. He said I was proving his point. I listened. Then I said goodbye. My parents were slower. Confusion before anger, concern before accusation. My mother asked if I was struggling financially. My father asked if this was about that joke. I told him the truth, which felt unfamiliar in my mouth. I said I was done being useful in place of being respected. A week later, an external voice entered the picture. Not dramatic, just firm. A bank officer called about a loan my name was no longer attached to. A landlord followed up about a payment that hadn't arrived. These weren't punishments, they were processes, neutral, indifferent, impossible to argue with. That was when the reality settled in for them, not as emotion, but as structure. I felt guilty in unexpected ways, not because they were inconvenienced, but because I was no longer needed. I had built a role for myself that filled silence and smoothed tension. Without it, I had to sit with who I was when I wasn't compensating for someone else. Some family members stopped calling. Some reached out awkwardly as if testing whether kindness still worked without the transaction underneath.
My brother oscillated between resentment and avoidance. We did not reconcile. We did not explode either. Life became quieter, not better in a celebratory way, just steadier. I still see my parents. We talk about neutral things, weather, health, television shows. There is something unspoken between us now, a recognition that something shifted and won't be undone. They don't laugh at jokes about me anymore. They also don't ask for help. Sometimes I miss the old version of myself, the one who believed being indispensable was the same as being loved. But I don't go back to him. I sit at different tables now. I choose where I'm useful. I choose where I stay silent. And when I raise a glass these days, it's not to prove anything. It's just a drink.